Okay, well, now that it's noon, we'll get started. Thank you to everyone for joining us today. Please New Brunswick and the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission are really excited about introducing a new educational resource and service to address and prevent workplace sexual harassment in the province of New Brunswick. So thank you for coming to this launch today. I just have some quick housekeeping before today's event. First, I'd like to remind everyone present that this webinar is being recorded for later use. And as such, any questions and answers will not remain confidential. If you need translation, please note that there is simultaneous translation available by clicking on the round interpretation icon in your lower menu and selecting the language of your choice. And lastly, if you have any questions throughout the event, please write them in the Q&A button in your lower menu. Si vous en avez besoin, sachez qu'un service d'interprétation simultanée est à votre disposition. Cliquez sur l'icône ronde d'interprétation dans le menu inférieur et sélectionnez la langue de votre choix. Si vous en avez des questions, veuillez utiliser la fonction Q&A sur le menu en bas. Je voudrais rappeler à toutes les personnes présentes que le webinaire est enregistré pour une utilisation plus tard. Alors, les questions et les réponses ne resteront pas confidentielles. My name is Amber Chisholm, and I'm currently the Interim Executive Director of Public Legal Education and Information Service of New Brunswick, or PLSNB. PLSNB and the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission have partnered together on this project. PLSNB has been a promoter for equal access to the justice system by developing plain language, bilingual information and services about the law in New Brunswick since 1989. And we believe that everyone should know and understand the law. And I'm going to pass it off to Marc-Alain here. I believe you're muted, Marc.
You'd think after 2 years, I'd know about this. Welcome, bonjour, sorry about that. My name is Marc-Alain Mallet. I'm the director of the New Brunswick Human Rights Commission. The Commission is the government agency responsible for the administration of the Human Rights Act in New Brunswick. So in addition to managing the complaint process, our mandate also includes educating the public about the legislation and promoting awareness about the importance of equality, diversity, and inclusion in the province. You on mute, Amber, too.
Of course, it's my turn to make that mistake.
Thank you.
Our two organizations have partnered together since 2019 on this project to develop resources and training to better address and prevent workplace sexual harassment. These resources are meant to aid all employers and employees in New Brunswick, but we also had a special focus on information for and about members of the LGBTQ2S+ community. We know that 1 in 4 LGBTQ2S+ employees experience discrimination in the workplace based on their sexual orientation or gender identity, and that information comes from a Stats Canada survey of 2020. Also, typically education on the issue of workplace sexual harassment has only reflected traditional and binary gender norms such as he and she stories and viewpoints. We felt that there was a significant need to introduce more inclusive resources and training.
Today, we're very excited to announce we are launching SaferPlacesNB.ca. So this website provides a number of useful resources as well as training to eliminate workplace sexual harassment. And we'll give you more details about that as we go. Sexual harassment in the workplace is both a gendered issue and a social justice issue. Our vision is to foster positive communication between people at work so that workplaces are safer for every New Brunswicker. So pour vous donner un peu de contexte concernant ce projet, en 2019, la SPEIGNB et la Commission des droits de la personne ont organisé une consultation publique. Nous avons rencontré un vaste éventail d'intervenants pour en apprendre davantage sur le problème du harcèlement sexuel en milieu de travail au Nouveau-Brunswick. Nous avons entendu des représentants syndicaux, d'organismes gouvernementaux, des universitaires, d'organismes sans but lucratif représentant la communauté LGBTQ2S+. Nous avons posé aux participants les questions suivantes. Quels étaient les problèmes des personnes confrontées au harcèlement sexuel en milieu de travail? Quelles craintes les gens pourrait avoir concernant l'efficacité des réponses aux incidents liés au harcèlement sexuel? Et quelles recommandations a-t-on reçues pour éliminer ces problèmes et améliorer les réponses?
So what did we learn after those consultations? With respect to challenges, we learned that power dynamics and fear were two of the biggest challenges for reporting sexual harassment. Power dynamics occur when one person is in a more vulnerable position than another, and fear becomes a factor when employees are afraid to report sexual harassment because of what might happen to them afterwards. Certains participants nous ont dit que les employeurs avaient souvent une tolérance élevée pour les formes de harcèlement sexuel et plus courantes, les microagressions. La microagression désigne les comportements comme les insultes et les commentaires irrespectueux. Une autre préoccupation venait du fait que les employeurs n'avaient pas clairement indiqué à leurs employés ce qu'ils devaient faire en cas d'harcèlement sexuel. Nombre de lieux de travail n'avaient pas de politique sur le harcèlement sexuel. Ils étaient également nombreux à ne pas avoir de formation ni d'éducation.
Participants also told us that both employers and employees in New Brunswick needed comprehensive and free access to training on workplace sexual harassment. We identified several knowledge gaps to inform the content of this training, and then we set out to meet this need. So we designed two types of training courses, e-learning modules and online workshops. We also designed a set for employers and another one customized for employees. For both the employer and employee courses, we train people to recognize all forms of sexual harassment. We also teach them the importance of appropriately responding to harassment. Specifically, for employers, we cover requirements and liabilities under the law. And for employees, we cover individual rights and responsibilities.
Participants in our consultations also gave us some great ideas about what kind of resources would be helpful to improve responsiveness. So now you can go to the website SaferPlacesNB.ca to find all kinds of practical resource material that'll be helpful for you either as an employer or an employee. We provide practical tools like fillable forms. There's a template complaint form that employees can use in the event of an internal complaint of workplace sexual harassment. There's also a very practical policy template that employers can take and adapt for their organizations. Vous trouverez également des documents imprimables, de petites affiches et des petits dépliants pour votre lieu de travail, ainsi que les fiches informatives sur les mesures à prendre si vous êtes témoin ou victime d'harcèlement sexuel au travail. Il y a aussi des fiches informatives visant à expliquer les microagressions, les termes du communauté LGBTQ2S+, ainsi que les données statistiques utiles et les obligations et les conséquences légales. Les employeurs trouveront une liste de contrôles qu'ils pourront utiliser pour créer leur propre politique contre le harcèlement.
So in 2019, the New Brunswick Health and Safety Act was amended to include an additional regulation. So employers must have a policy with respect to harassment, which includes sexual harassment. So in addition, employees need to be trained about this policy and about workplace sexual harassment. We know that many New Brunswickers have not complied with this legal requirement. Many employers are surprised to discover that if they do not fulfill this obligation, they may receive fine or even criminal charges and prison time after a complaint has been filed. The organization's directors, their officers, their managers, and supervisors may all be at risk of legal consequences. So all this is workplace sexual harassment is serious. Il est important de reconnaître les effets du harcèlement sexuel sur les personnes et les organisations. Les personnes qui subissent du harcèlement sexuel en milieu de travail vivent avec des séquelles à long terme. Ces conséquences peuvent prendre la forme d'une diminution de la satisfaction personnelle et des problèmes de santé mentale. When employers do not prevent sexual harassment at work, their organization may suffer from a toxic workplace culture. This, in turn, may cause increased absenteeism and employee turnover, as well as decreased productivity. Complaint can also be a course to lead to punitive legal proceeding, as we mentioned.
So what are the next steps? Please visit SaferPlacesNB.ca and share it with your network. And please consider taking our training. You can take our self-guided training on the website, or you can sign up for a workshop via Zoom if you like. After finishing, you will receive a certificate of completion. Nous nous invitons aussi à télécharger nos ressources afin de promouvoir la prévention du harcèlement sexuel au travail. Et nous avons élaboré une trousse d'outils lieu plus sûr dans laquelle vous trouverez facilement des ressources. Any New Brunswick organization who has completed sexual harassment training can become a positive workplace partner with us. This partnership can help you to promote a positive workplace culture, and it recognizes your commitment to preventing workplace sexual harassment in your workplace.
Donc, en bref, si vous êtes un employeur, allez sur Lieu plus sûr Nouveau-Brunswick pour élaborer votre politique sur le harcèlement et contribuer à éliminer le harcèlement sexuel. Si vous êtes un employé ou une employée, allez sur Lieu plus sûr Nouveau-Brunswick pour découvrir les mesures à prendre si vous êtes témoin ou victime de harcèlement sexuel. Our vision is a province where everyone can expect safe and respectful workplaces.
So some final words, we really hope this initiative will start positive conversations on how to prevent and address workplace sexual harassment in New Brunswick. We want to thank Justice Canada for funding this project. And now we are ready to take some questions from the media and from the public. Thank you.
Perfect. So I know that we have some questions that folks are already posing. I did want to first provide the opportunity, however, to the media that we do have on the call. Tamara Steele from Acadia Broadcasting, you're first on the list. And you are muted right now if you want to. Thank you. Tamara, do you have a question for us? Okay, we'll loop back to Tamara. I don't believe that there's anyone else. However, we did get a question in the Q&A section, and if you do have any questions, that's the best place to pose them. I can pull from there and let Makala and Amber answer those as they come up. Our first question, though, however, is Makala and Amber. Is this web resource solely for sexual harassment education, or are there goals to broaden the available resources to other forms of harassment, discrimination, or workplace exclusion?
I can certainly field that question, and Mark can add to it if he feels that there's more that needs to be added. So the plan currently and the scope of funding for this project through Justice Canada is specifically aimed at targeting sexual harassment in the workplace. Our project has taken currently a focus on the ways that harassment goes unnoticed or unacknowledged in the ways that it can affect the LGBTQ2S+ community. And we would like over time to expand that to other vulnerable groups with research and data supporting the ways that certain groups might need to be supported in addressing workplace sexual harassment. But violence, diversity, and harassment more generally is likely outside of the scope of the funding agreement for this project.
Wonderful, thank you. We do have a question here from a member. How can we find out the dates of the training options you mentioned, and is there a cost associated?
Great. So right now, we have a English session planned for early April, and that information will soon be available on our website. The training is completely free, and nobody needs to pay really anything at all. We take care of the facilitation and the delivery. However, what we're doing right now, due to the interest, and we want to gauge interest, is if you're interested in a session that isn't currently scheduled, please get in touch with us via the website. And depending on the number of people in your workplace who are interested, we may be able to schedule a session specifically for you or put you on a list for a later date when we have more attendees.
Perfect. Thank you for that response, Amber. We have another question here from one of our attendees. Thank you for the information on this great initiative. How do you think the training and resources can help employers and employees navigate sexual harassment in a post-pandemic world where a lot of us are working from home?
That's a great question too. It's interesting because sexual harassment is not necessarily limited to incidences that happen in person. It can cover all kinds of inappropriate comments and conduct that can happen via a workplace email chain or chat thread. It can happen even outside of the workplace if you're on work time or interacting with colleagues at a workplace event or function. So sexual harassment is not necessarily, and part of the goal of this project is to educate people on the way that sexual harassment is not necessarily only the the way that we tend to understand it as a society as being about a superior person making advances physically towards an employee or somebody who works for them. It can involve inappropriate jokes and comments or a normalized workplace where certain kinds of behavior and jokes or questions are tolerated. So hopefully the information available on our site and through this project will help people understand more generally what kinds of behavior and conversations are appropriate for the workplace and what isn't necessarily considered acceptable according to the law.
Thank you, Amber. Makale, I think this question is best directed to you. Can you please advise if the government provides through any department such as Human Rights or Department of Labor a mediator for workplace harassment complaints?
Well, at the Human Rights Commission, that's one of our founding principles. So under our legislation, the commission is mandated to effect a settlement. And so that's why we offer mediation at every step of the process, from the time the person inquires or calls us about a specific situation they want to discuss, all the way through the process when a complaint is filed, and then it's investigated. So we do have investigation on staff, and we do provide that service. Now, if it's related to other areas, I know there's other parts in government, like employment standards, for example, which also has mediation. So it all depends on the circumstances that affects your situation.
Wonderful, thank you, Makale. We have no further questions in the chat box. Oh, there's one. Thank you. Does your training also work for people who don't work in office environments, for example, like bars, restaurants, construction sites, tourism, etc.?
I'd like to say currently it does. The information is generally about the kinds of behaviors and workplace cultures that sometimes tolerate sexual harassment in ways that we don't always appreciate is sexually harassing, and not exclusively to office culture. And currently the current phase of the project that we're in is involving research that expands specifically to sectors where this might not be normally discussed, such as service sectors, healthcare, construction work, for example, where there may be sector-specific information about how sexual harassment might present in those areas. But the information in our materials as it is would cover workplaces generally and not just office spaces.
With regards to the Human Rights Commission, our legislation is maybe a little bit more far-reaching. It does involve the areas of employment, of services, of accommodation, rental properties, publicity, and also associations. So in this case, yes, it would apply.
Wonderful, thank you. What does the positive workplace partner entail?
Sure, yeah. So my understanding right now that we're looking at is for employers that want to work with us as a positive workplace partner after having taken the training, we are looking at ways to either promote our project with that employer, but also promote our partnership with the employer on our website and potentially other materials down the road. So that could involve with an employer's consent, adding their logo to our list of partners on the website, for example, and advertising their name as a partner in future communications where we're talking about the partnership program.
Thank you, Amber. We did also receive a request to share by email the links that have been shared in the chat with participants. We'll be working to do that following the session. However, you can also reach out to either the Human Rights Commission or PlusSûrsNB to receive that information. We may have reached the end of the questions. I understand that folks may be typing. However, I did want to let everyone know that certainly if you have any questions following the session, you can reach out to either us dans la langue de votre choix. Si vous avez des questions, vous pouvez les poser dans la langue de votre choix. I see that as I've said that, another one has popped up. Where is the best place to contact someone if an employer fails to implement a policy and training after several requests?
So Marquette might have something to add to this as well with his knowledge of GNB and regulatory requirements. But one of the important things that's highlighted in our training is the fact that WorkSafe legislation and occupational health and safety legislation now requires employers to have policies like this. So if an employer is not implementing a policy and they've been made aware that it's needed and also required, then one point of contact might be to contact WorkSafe New Brunswick.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Amber stole my thunder. The point I'd like to add is that in New Brunswick, there's a lot of work that's being done between government agencies and other types of organization such as ours to make sure that we try to align the services based on the requests that we receive. So if you were to call us with a specific situation and it's not the Human Rights Commission, you would be referring you. So either to employment standards or the advocate services within the Department of Post-Secondary Education or other government agencies, could be the Ombud as well. But your first point of contact with in this specific area would certainly be WorkSafe.NB.
Thank you very much for that. How does the training prepare employees to address sexual harassment in the workplace?
So the training itself goes through a number of things, from scenarios involving what workplace sexual harassment may or may not look like, the ways that sexual harassment can sometimes be tolerated in workplaces based on data and information on what kinds of places are presenting as an issue. The employer training specifically also has a great deal of information on, for example, what a workplace sexual harassment policy might look like, what the steps of a reasonable investigation process might look like, and options for actually addressing the workplace a complaint of workplace sexual harassment, because an employer has a great deal of power to address issues before they become a legally valid complaint. So, for example, something might not constitute a pattern of harassment. However, employers have a great deal of power to still address it and censure it anyway and say that this isn't tolerated here before anything even comes to the point of being a legally based complaint. So the training itself goes through the ways that employers can employ dispute resolution processes before going to more formal options, as well as the formal options that might be available.
If I could add to that too, I think the training and awareness component is very important. You know, if you look at the New Brunswick makeup of our businesses and our service providers, they might not have full-fledged human resources department that are kept abreast or are aware of these resources or even of those requirements. So the fact that we have, and the commission, you know, also offers, I've been, for as long as the legislation has been in effect, raising awareness about equality and inclusion in the workplace and a lot of other areas. So we certainly welcome this additional resources and this other mechanism to be able to raise awareness and to inform employers and employees of their rights and their responsibilities, because if this is overlooked, there are serious consequences. So.
Wonderful. Thank you to you both. Can employers receive training for workshops on a regular basis, for example, quarterly?
I don't see why not. However, our workshops as they are fairly standard, and we have one for employees and one for employers. So 4 months later, for example, or 3 months later, the information we have delivered isn't necessarily going to be updated. However, if employers wish to have their employees trained in this workshop, there is absolutely no reason that they can't take it more than once or have multiple employees regularly sign in to take it as part of the onboarding process. If there is interest and there are enough people to fill a session, we'll certainly do our best to make sure that we create a facilitated session. And the online training is free to use at any time. So employers can send their managers, fellow employers, or employees to go take that online training asynchronously at any time.
I'd like to add too that you know, our industry already invest in health and safety and other type of professional development. Well, this training is just as important as health and safety, and it needs to be taken seriously. So we're hoping that that's going to be the case, and And as that rolls out, I think there will be other organization or parties that can take this training and are qualified to be able to deliver it to the wider audience. So we certainly hope to get the ball rolling in this regard.
Perfect. Well, thank you to you both for taking those questions. I think we've reached the end of our session for questions. I'd like to offer you both the chance if you'd like to say any closing remarks.
But thank you everybody for coming. I do see one last question just about the recording of this session. I'm not aware that there's a plan to post it on the website, but there may be. But unfortunately, I don't have access to that information at this moment.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. Mark, did you want to say some closing remarks?
Well, I can't add much more than what's been already said, other than it's been a pleasure to work with public legal education and services in New Brunswick. They've been, they have been, and they are a great partner. And as well as we're thankful for the funding from the Government of Canada to make this training available. It's very important. Our workplace needs to remain respectful and safe for all our employees. So the Commission is very engaged in this regard, and it's a good complement to the services that the Commission already offers. So we're pleased to be a partner in this initiative. Thank you.
Perfect. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining. If you have any questions, you can find our contact information in the chat or via how you enrolled. You can also contact us if you have any questions. Thank you for joining us today, and feel free to reach out if you do have any questions. Wonderful. With that, we'll be closing off the session. Have a great day, everyone.
Merci beaucoup. Au revoir. See you.
Thank you. Bye.